We're talking about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. Yitzchak was the son of Abraham, and Rivka became his wife. And that's the topic of this week's Torah reading. That's the topic. And we asked the question, what is so important about it? It has to have a whole Torah portion about this. Say they got married and that's it. So the answer is that the unification between Rivka and Yitzchak affects the whole entire world and everybody in it. And we have to remember that God created the world, put one man in it, Abraham, and he was supposed to fix up the whole. I'm sorry, Adam. Put one man in it, Adam, and he was supposed to fix up the whole world. The world depended totally on him, Adam. And when it didn't work, so God tried it again, and he wiped out the whole world, and he started brand new with Noah. The whole world was supposed to depend on him, and it did. He made a whole new world. But still, no one got the point of Adam. No one got the point of Adam. Until hundreds of years later came along Abraham. Abraham lived in the end of the life of Noah, but his message only began the end of the life of Noah. So 900 years later, something like that, came along Abraham. Not 900 years later. Let's see, when did the flood? Was this? It was Abraham was born 2,000 years after the world was created. Okay, so 500 years later came Abraham. And Abraham, yeah, that's right, sure, I'm sorry. 400 years later came along Abraham. And Abraham was the first one to really get the commandment, the implications of what God told Adam to fix up the world. Abraham. So Abraham started it. Okay, and what did God say? That Abraham was supposed to get the whole entire world to realize as a creator and act accordingly. There were the 7 Noahide commandments at that time. At the time Noah, there was only 7 Noahide commandments, and the whole world should do these 7 Noahide commandments. And Abraham was going to start a whole new race or whatever, is a group of people that were called the Jews, and they were going to have a different type of a soul, and that they were going to make sure that the world kept the 7 Noahide commandments, and that the world was in order, the world recognized God. That's the job of the Jews, right? And Abraham passed that on to Yitzchak. And of course, Yitzchak had to pass it on to Jacob. In order for him to do that, he had to have a proper wife. So the marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka, that was the future of the whole world, that the world would get the point of why they're here, why we're here. What does it mean to serve God? What does it mean to make this world perfect? What does it mean? How to do it? Yitzchak and Rivka. So Kabbalistically, it says that Yitzchak and Rivka is the unification of Ma and Ban. Ma is the numerical value of 45. That's the 45 numerical value of God's name. And Ban is 52 numerical value of God's name. However it is, these two things represent, and to get it out of the spiritual level, what it means, the main thing is this physical world. The name Ban, represented by Rivka, is this world. How this world raises up, serves God. And Yitzchak is the name Ma, and that's God giving blessing and inspiration from above to below. So Rivka is from below to above, and the unification of these two things, this is what's going to prepare us for the Torah. The Torah is exactly that, telling us what we should do from this world and telling us the blessings God is going to put into this world when we do what it says in the Torah. It says, therefore, therefore, Abraham didn't do it on his own, didn't make this unity of the matchmaking of Rivka and Yitzchak. Abraham didn't do it alone. He sent out his servant, because Abraham wants there to be this whole topic of servants in the world. And anyone who does what Abraham says is a servant of Abraham, a servant of God. That's what God wants. God does not want leaders. God wants servants. And if one of the things you have to do as a servant is to be a leader or to be rich or to be famous. That's okay. But the main thing what you are is a servant. That's the whole point of this whole thing. And we are servants to bring Mashiach. We're the servants of doing what the Rebbe. We're servants of the Rebbe to do what the Rebbe wants. What does the Rebbe want? To bring Mashiach and reveal God in the whole world. Just like Abraham. Abraham was a person, right? So, and he knew what God wanted, and he made a emissary. So it says the emissary has to have both of these aspects in himself of what comes from above to below, the blessings, and also doing from below to above. How is this manifested? On one hand, Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, he was a type of a servant that was totally united with his master. Everything he did is what the master would have him do. Everything. Even the moving of his finger, every word that he says, he did not separate himself from Abraham, even in the smallest motion. Completely unified. He was a limb of Abraham, Eliezer. And so we too have to be the same thing when we're connected, in our case, to the Rebbe, right? Have to be a limb. No, have no will of our own. We do only what the Rebbe wants. That's the ma part of it. That's the Yitzchak part. On the other hand, we have to be the opposite. We have to be a totally separate entity. We have to call the shots on our own. We have to make our own decisions. We have to do things in the way that we want to do, in our way. And it's so how can they both be the same two things together? How can it be two of them together? How can it be? It says that's the whole point of this week's Torah portion. On one hand, every single human being is different from every other human being, everyone. And every single human being is an emissary of God. The Jews are supposed to teach the whole world this, just like Eliezer is teaching us. Totally united with God, right? But everybody, I'm sorry, everybody is different. Everyone is unique. Everyone is the same. No one is the same. I'm sorry. No one is the same. Everyone is special. No one is replaceable. Everybody has something that no one else has. Everyone. And you have to act accordingly. You have to bring out your uniqueness, your talents, your potential. On the other hand, everyone is exactly the same. We are all creations of God. We all have responsibility to God according to the Torah. So everyone is exactly the same. That's the point that Eliezer was trying to bring out. You want to perfect the world, you have to have these two things together. You have to be an emissary of God, and you have to be a matchmaker of God. An emissary is one who doesn't do anything on his own, and a matchmaker does everything on his own. But what unifies them together? The goal and the principles. I'm the matchmaker. I'm gonna do whatever I want, but it's within the framework of that Abraham gave me. I have to find a proper wife for his son. Has to this criteria, etc. So we see here that Abraham was totally devoted to God. But on the other hand, Abraham was very unique. And Abraham gave these two qualities over to Yitzchak. He gave these two qualities over to Eliezer. And Eliezer, he also gave them over to Yitzchak. That's also true. But Yitzchak and Eliezer had these two qualities. On one hand, he was totally devoted to the one who sent him. On the other hand, he was a totally free agent on his own. And this he gave over to Yitzchak and Rivka. Yitzchak and Rivka then, they would be the basis of the Jewish people, that the Jewish people would also have these two qualities, tendencies. One hand, to be totally surrendered to God, not do anything on our own, and at the same time to do everything on our own. Everything is, my uniqueness is going to be in everything, but it has to be the way God wants. It's not so easy to do, but God helps us. And that's the whole story of this week's Torah portion. I hope he's, according to this, the Rebbe, by the way, is saying this to the emissary convention, the Shluchim convention, and all these Shluchim. And he said in the beginning, he said it about 10 times in the first paragraph, Mashiach, the whole purpose of creation, the whole purpose of the Jewish people, the whole purpose of Chabad, the whole purpose of you is just Mashiach. Bring Mashiach. That is the goal. That is the purpose. That is the means. Mashiach is the whole business. On the other hand, you have to do it in your own individual way. But it has to be according to the Torah. Can't make it up totally. It has to be according to the Torah. So on one hand, you're totally negated to the Torah and the commandments. You can't do anything outside. On the other hand, you have to be yourself, who you really are. But the Rebbe said a very powerful thing. He said two powerful things here. Number one, he said that everyone is a shliach, not just you people sitting here. And number two, he said anyone who does not devote himself to this goal of being Mashiach, then he's not a shliach anymore. That's what the Rebbe said. He's not an emissary anymore. Here, where did he say that? Where did he say that? He said it over here. Can't remember. Shlicha. Yeah, I don't remember. He said it. Okay, it was right over here. I can't remember. I'll find it later on. Okay. What's that? We learned it yesterday, remember? Okay. Alpiz, according to this. Again, this is a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe right near the end of 1991. Tavshin Nun Bey. According to this, Yesh Lomar, we can say, beer, the explanation. 1 second. Ala Dvar Pella. We can explain it. We can say something which is very, very strange. What's the very strange thing? Habir b'Chasidut, the explanation in Chasidut, in the books of Chasidut, which is Torah Or and Lechuti Torah. That's what we learn in the morning. It's called the oral Torah of Chabad. In Chabad, the written Torah is the Tanya, and the oral Torah is Torah Or and Lechuti Torah. That's what we learned before this class. The Parshas Eliezer and Nesui Yitzchak Rivka. This whole idea of the marriage of the Yitzchak and Rivka, Eino Mofil b'makom b'Torah Or. It's not found in Torah Or in Chayesora. Eladavka b'Lekuti Torah. We're learning in the morning, right? We're learning in the morning Torah Or, right? What are we learning about? About how the soul has garments and in the garments of the Torah and the commandments with the Torah. Why doesn't it talk about this very important topic? This is such an important topic. The marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. It's so tremendously essential to the reality, to Judaism, to the whole world. Why isn't it mentioned in this book? It says it is mentioned, but it's not mentioned here. Where is it mentioned? Totally in a different place, at the end of the book of Deuteronomy, in Lechuti Torah, right at the very end, in Parshas Bracha, after all the other, right, at the very end. Here, there's this week's Torah portion talks about marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, and it's so important, it's so essential, and and it's found in the books of the first Rebbe of Chabad, but it's not in its proper place. It's not in this week's Torah portion. It's at the end, after everything is finished, all the explanations are finished of all the Torah portions, and after Zota Bracha, the last, there's talking about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. Why? At the end of the whole 5 books of the Torah, and afterwards it comes the Shir HaShirim, and then afterwards there's more in the Song of Songs, but after the 5 books of Moses, then the Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad, sticks in these explanations of Yitzchak and Rivka, totally out of place. Why? Yeshlam, we can say, Shebezeh gam arumas shehashlichos. This hints at that the mission of Eliezer to bring about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, which we said is the unification of Ma and Ban, and this is the completion of the Geula. This will be realized when Mashiach comes. He'll unite God with the world and the world with God. Why is it put at the end why does the first Rebbe of Chabad put at the end of all of his explanations on the Torah? Why? To show us that this is the end and the completion of the whole entire Torah. Everything we've been learning about is only to bring this unification, Mashiach, that'll unify truly Ma and Ban, God and the world. Therefore, it's explained this at the end and the completion and the, how do you say, the finale of Lakuti Torah, of this book Lakuti Torah, which is the second book explaining the sections of the Torah. And afterwards comes the Drushim of Shir HaShirim, afterwards comes the Song of Songs, that their whole thing is the completion of the marriage of the Jewish people, Yisrael, souls in bodies with God. The Shlem is the completion of the unification of Ma and Ban. There's a book in Judaism called the Song of Songs. It's only 8 chapters long. It's very short. It's written by King Solomon. And it's all allegories and metaphors, and there's no simple meaning to it. And it's all referring to, there's explanations. Of course, there's explanations. See Rashi, beautiful explanation. And it's all talking about the future redemption. The future redemption. How God took the Jews out of Egypt, how he built the temple, what happened with the Jews, the temple is going to be destroyed, and the Jews are searching for God, and God is searching for the Jews. But the main point of it is Mashiach. That's the Song of Songs, the ultimate love song between God and the Jewish people. When God consummates the marriage between him and the Jewish people, that's going to be the Song of Songs. That's the Mashiach. Like it's going to be in the future redemption, the whole future redemption. And to add on, Shebetechila Sefer, in the beginning of the book of Lakuti Torah, in Vayikra. But again, let me just explain this a little bit. Just 1 minute here. See this here. This is the book which is called Torah Or. It's a fairly thick book. See, it's a fairly thick book. This is an explanation of the first Rebbe of Chabad on mainly the first 2 books of the Torah. Then there's another book which is called Lakuti Torah, which I you know what, I have one over here. 1 second, I got one up here. Let me give you a look. Here, Lakuti Torah. Here, see, here we go. Here's Lakuti Torah. This is small print, but it's much thicker. It's much thicker. This is dissertations, speeches that are put into essay form from the first Rebbe of Chabad, and they are on the last 3 books of the Torah. The last 3 books of the Torah. Well, strangely enough, after the Rebbe finishes all the last 3 books of the Torah, that's the 3 books of the Torah here, all of a sudden is stuck. Let's have a look over here. After Zota Bracha is, here we go. Yeah. 1 second, where is this? One second, let me find this. Is a essay on Yitzchak and Rivka. Interestingly enough, I don't think that it's printed over here. Let's have a look over here. No, it is not. One second. Interesting. One second. 1 minute. No, look at it. It's not written here. It must be written in other books, but it's not written in mine. Huh? That's interesting. I never looked. I thought I found it last year. 1 minute. No, it's not. Huh. Okay. Anyway, in I guess in the copies that the Rebbe has, or maybe I just can't find it, At the end of this book is written about the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, which is mentioned in our Torah portion in Genesis. Why is it all of a sudden in the end after Deuteronomy? It says this because it's coming to show you that that's the sum total of all of the service of man. And the service of the Jews is this unification of Yitzchak and Rivka, the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka. And we can also add on, in the beginning of the book of Likutei Torah, Vayikra, and that's where it begins. It says there's explained the idea of shlichus lamaila. It's explained over there what it means to be an emissary from God. That each and every Jew is an emissary of what's called the upper man of God. That God sent every single Jew, put the soul in the body in order that it should do its job in the world. That's what it's explained right in the beginning of this book. Yesh Lomo, we can say, Shazu, and that's the topic of this week's Torah portion, that Abraham made Eliezer his emissary. Yesh Lomo, we can say that this is, which is explained in the beginning of Likutei Torah, it's explained, rumors is hinted at, that this is the beginning of the service of man, which is known that every man, every human being, Jews first, are emissaries of God, who is called the upper man. Upper man. Why is God called the upper man? Because God acts like a man. God took us out of Egypt. God spoke to Abraham. He gets pleased. In the end of Likutei Torah, it's explained the completion of the service of Ma and Ban, that this is a preparation for the future redemption. According to this, so we can understand this topic of the Moshiach, how the Moshiach himself is just an emissary. That's what Moses said to God at the burning bush. God said, "Go, I'm sending you to take the Jewish people out of Egypt." And Moses said, "Send whoever you want to send." In other words, don't send me, send Mashiach. Or even better, send me as Mashiach. And the Rebbe said, how can that be? Where Moses is from the tribe of Levi, and Mashiach is going to be from the tribe of Judah, Yehuda. How can it be? So it says, Mashiach is an emissary, just like Moses was. That by means of the Mashiach is brought about a complete topic of shlichus. This is the true idea of being an emissary, a representative, unifying Ma and Ban. Eliezer ben Yitzchak Rivka. That's how God does things. God doesn't do things always in a miraculous way. God does things in a natural way. The human body is very natural. You can go to school, university, you can learn the laws of how the digestive system and the circulatory system, and it's the same in every human being. God does things in a natural way. Also, the redemption of the Jewish people, which is a total miracle, but God wants to do it in as natural way as possible. Therefore, God does not want to do it himself. He does it by means of an emissary. And this emissary also doesn't do it himself. He has to convince the Jewish people, somehow or other, convince them to change their whole priorities in life. That's the job of Eliezer, that he had to make a marriage between Yitzchak, who was previously alone, and Rivka, who was previously alone. And in fact, that's what every Jew is. Every Jew is an emissary of God, lahavia tegula, to bring the future redemption and the complete redemption, to reveal the truth of what reality is in this world. Sha'az then will be the completion of the unification of the soul and the body, Jews and God. Everything will be one. Also in the physical world, there'll be a total revelation of God in this physical world alone. It won't only be in the Holy Temple. In a way that the world, the whole entire world, will be a dwelling and a revelation for God in this physical world. According to this, now it's understood why it is that the Mashiach himself is going to be something like Eliezer. What do we say? Eliezer, in order that he can succeed in unifying Ma and Ban, the spiritual with the physical, God with the world. He had to embody this in himself. He had to be totally negated to God, but he also had to be totally in the world. And so is the Mashiach. Mashiach is also going to be just an emissary. And Mashiach will have also these two qualities unifying between these two opposites. Ma, which is total surrender to God, and Ban, which means total individuality. Metzius Latzma, he'll be something in himself. He'll be a unique personality of a soul in the body, physical, flesh and blood. Like the Rambam says, the Mashiach will be a king from the house of King David, and he will learn Torah, and he'll do the commandments just like David did, and he'll fight the battles of God. And this indicates that he will be in this world, and he will be a human being, and he will have opposition, and he will prevail over the opposition. He'll be in the world, Shabo Kaimim, that there's opposition. Shemishum Kakta, because of this, he will have to do a war. So, like I said, God wants to do things naturally also. Just like he took the Jews out of Egypt. There were tremendous plagues and amazing things. But why? God could have just made it that the Egyptians just disappeared. Just disappeared, that's all. And the Jews left calmly, that's all. That would have been a real good miracle. Huh? A real big miracle. All of a sudden, one day, the Egyptians just disappeared, that's all. Just left a bunch of hieroglyphics and, sphinxes and stuff like that as a remembrance, as a memento of their stay in Egypt. But they wouldn't, you didn't have to have the 10 plagues and all of this. No, God wanted everything to be semi-natural. Semi-natural. He split the sea. What did he have to split the sea for? Don't make a sea in the first place. Just jump the Jews over the sea. That would be better. No, he split the sea. It's unheard of. It says he just transformed the sea to be a wall. So walls existed before that, and seas existed before that. That's the way God wants. He wants to have a dira. He wants to have his God's miraculous creative force revealed, but tachtonim in the physical world. God wants the physical world to be here, and he wants it to act in a normal way, but he doesn't want it to be, sick, like it is now. And Mashiach will simply make the world healthy. But in order to do this, he has to embody what true health is, namely godliness, and be in the world. And together with this, a shluch shel adam, he has to be, on one hand, totally individual, but on the same hand, he has to be totally godly. Shekein kadei, in order to fall the yichud, the unification of the soul and the body in Judaism. That's why, by the way, in Judaism, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they're tremendously holy, but they were all married. Moses was even holier. He went up on Mount Sinai, didn't eat, didn't sleep for 40 days. He did it 3 times in a row. And he was married. He had children. God wants this physical world to be the way it is. The main thing is not to go to heaven. Heaven is like a consolation prize until Mashiach comes. Then the main thing is going to be this physical world, souls and bodies. And the world will act in a normal way, but it'll act the way it's supposed to act. Then, like it was in the time when God made Adam in the world, before Adam sinned. It says Mashiach will force all the Jews to walk in the ways of God and to strengthen Judaism. He'll force them. The Rebbe explains he'll force them by means of convincing them. The Yichud HaRuchnis, there'll be the unification of the spiritual and the physical in the world. So therefore, the Mashiach has to himself embody these two opposites in order to bring this into reality in the world. So he himself has to embody these two opposites together. Now we can understand the whole idea why Moses requested from God, send whoever you want. When Moses wanted to say like this, and he actually did, he had the effect. What did he want? He wanted that the Mashiach should be here, not himself. And God said, don't worry about it. I'm uniting the Mashiach with you. Moses, therefore, he united what's called Ma'amban. He actually brought the chibur, the unification of Goel Rishon, who was Moses, and Goel Achron and Mashiach. When Moses said to God, don't send me, send Mashiach, so God said, you know what? I'm going to send them both. You're going to embody both of them. Moses on his own, his main thing is what's called Torah, Chachma. Like it says, Zichru Torah's Moshe. Moshe received the Torah. Moshe received the Torah from the Jews. The reason Moses took the Jews out of Egypt was to receive the Torah. Mashiach, his main thing is going to be the physical world. He's going to be a king. Yamod Melech b'beis Dovid. So Moses' main thing is bringing God down, and Mashiach's main thing is making God and bringing the world up to accept the kingship of God. The Yeshlom, we can say, the kingship of God means that God is creating everything. Accept it. The Yeshlom, we can say, Shazeo, this is the difference between a mashpia, one who gives from above to below, wisdom, the highest, and the receiver, Malchut, the physical world. Moses was Chachma, that's the highest of the 10 Sefirot. King David was the lowest, Malchut, kingship. That's the difference. That's the same difference like between the light of the sun, the giver, and the moon, which is the receiver. Dovid, so to speak, was the receiver. And this is attached to King David. Moses, he received the Torah from Mount Sinai. Moses received all of the Torah. That's the source of all blessing and life in the world that's drawn into the world. This even the power to bring the redemption. Mashiach, he's the last redeemer. His main thing is kingship, to bring it all actually physically in the world, that the world should be changed to want God. Moses brought godliness into the world, but he didn't really change the world. The Jewish people weren't really ready for it. As we see, they worshiped the golden calf. Moses brought godliness into the world. Mashiach is going to be the one that's going to prepare the world to be a vessel for God. There is a Maila Samakabel. Malchut is the lowest of all. That's the end of exile. But what? It's got the advantage that it can receive. That by means of this surrender of the world that Mashiach is going to bring, it will have inside of it all, it'll be able to receive everything from above. Exactly the opposite. Ora makabel, megia, benovea, midarga, nilis. The ability to receive is in some ways higher than the ability to give. Something like what we just finished learning in Torah, or we learned that the commandments, when you do them, they make a cloud that you can receive godliness in the world to come. It says, but that cloud is in some way higher than what you receive in the world to come. It has the ability to receive. It comes from a higher source than what you're going to get, than what God gives. Kafisha Nidgala, like will be revealed in the future redemption, it says, Nekeva Mesovas Gever, says that the feminine will be higher than the masculine. The earth, the body, will be higher than the soul. Where is this? This is the body of a Jew will be higher than even the soul. It says that the soul will be nourished from the body. We have no idea what a physical commandment is. Therefore, specifically the Mashiach, he's going to bring the redemption. Why? Because he's going to have both of these. Mashiach is going to be the aspect of Malchus, kingship, the physical world, the complete redemption, because Mashiach is going to prepare the world that the world will be able to accept these revelations. And we can say that that's the whole life. Moses began this. When Moses said, don't send me, send Mashiach, he intended that, okay, I'm going to send you, Moses, but that's going to be the power for Mashiach. Moses, when he made this request, he brought about the unification of both of these things. Of that, and the Mashiach will have both things. He'll be able to bring big blessings into the world, but in addition to the ability to accept these blessings, he will also be a tremendous teacher. He'll teach Torah to everyone. He'll show everyone the godliness of the Torah. He'll teach even Moses, Mashiach. He'll teach even Moses. He'll teach even Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Similarly, we see by Moses, it says, Vayihi Yeshua and Melech, that Moses had the quality of being a king. So Moses embodied in him a little bit of Mashiach. Moses was a king, Vayihi Yeshua and Melech, and Mashiach will embody in him also the thing of Moses, which is wisdom, teaching everybody. And we can say that this is also hinted that the Mashiach is the numerical value of Shliach, of emissary. Mashiach is the emissary, Shliach, the same exact letters. It's just that Mashiach is a mem, and in its place, shliach is a lamed. Lamed is 30, Mashiach is 40. So Mashiach comes when the shliach adds the 10 powers of a soul. When you add the 10 powers of the soul to shliach, if you're an emissary, then this brings the Mashiach. This is by means of that he does whatever he is supposed to be, by means of being a shliach of the, he unifies and activates, how do you say, he harnesses the power of his 10 aspects of his soul to bring Mashiach. Then the shliach with the 10, that's the numerical value of Mashiach. So the Rebbe is telling us how to actually do this, bring Mashiach. What's lacking? Says the Rebbe, all we have to have is a little bit more surrender, total surrender to the Creator, and also a little bit more ingenuity and individuality. That uniting these two things together will bring the Geula with Mashiach. Now, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow.